Robert Coover is the author of a grand novel called The Origin of the Brunists, which, published in 1966, won the William Faulkner Award for the best first novel published that year. An award so prestigious that not even William Faulkner himself ever won it. Last year, Mr. Coover's second book was published, a complex novel about a man who invents the world, and called The Universal Baseball Association J. Henry Waugh, Proprietor. Coover is also the author of some 20 short stories, published in such places as Olympia, Evergreen Review, Playboy, and other dirty magazines. His life is as varied as his fiction. Mr. Coover has been in 39 states. He is the only American writer ever to have lived in Guatemala, and he spent 3 very happy, even glorious years in Franco's Spain. That he may be one of the better writers working today is not nearly so impressive as the vast range of his talents, for Coover's energies seem to be as diffuse as his life. He tells me that he is currently at work on some 50 projects. These include 3 novels, a film which he is making himself about the riots at the University of Iowa last year when Dow Chemical came to call, plays, an Icelandic saga, a Swiss opera, a collection of stories, prick songs, and descants, and God knows what all. A teacher as well as a writer, he is taught at Bard College and at the University of Iowa. Currently, he is a Rockefeller feller. He is also a superb water skier, a consummate authority on art fakes. He fills his own teeth and has designed the chair that Professor Morris is sitting. Mr. Robert Coover.
Stanley gave his own reading up at the University of Iowa about 1.5 years, which was in itself one of the historic moments at the University of Iowa. I mean, very serious people up there are calling it a watershed, and who could they be talking about if not Stanley? The occasion, it was a large conference on post-realistic fiction, and there was about a dozen novelists around, and all the workshop writers and some poets and a clutch of kind of creative radicals like Paul Krasner and Carl Oglesby. Am I going to kick it? And the editor of Partisan Review was there, and even the San Francisco Mine Troupe was in town. And in one of those sort of unhappy strokes of academic planning, the keynote address was given to a very respectable critic, an Ivy Leaguer, who was going to talk about the diseased state of the novel as he saw it. And he was to be followed by Susan Sontag, who would have been almost sure to follow him by ad-libbing on the diseased state of critics who talk about the diseased state of the novel. In fact, this guy was very, very much afraid of her. She's been known to cut people to ribbons, the people that have preceded her to the platform. So his speech was filled with allusions to Susan Sontag. The only trouble was that Susan Sontag at the last minute didn't turn up. And so, he would have things like, well, I'm sure, of course, Miss Sontag would, with her usual caustic wit, would be prepared to, that is, if she were here, she would be prepared, which only made the thing the whole conference look pretty grim. The people were starting to walk out, and the San Francisco Mime Troupe people were in the back and had their feet up on the top backs of chairs, and they were making very hostile mutterings. And it looked like they might even try to break the whole thing up. And then in one of those sort of compensatory acts of brilliant academic intuition, the people running the show asked Stanley to fill in for the missing Miss Sontag and read a section from A Bad Man.
A bad man.
A bad man, that's what I said. And it'd be a mistake to say that Stanley saved the conference, because, as a matter of fact, in a way, he probably destroyed it. There was a regular shootout up there between critic and artist, and the artist, as Stanley would say, took all the marbles. The critics who, well, I have good feelings about critics, are generally very sweet guys, even if they are often a bit misguided, were completely routed, and the conference became that impossible thing, a novel conference for novelists. What I mean is we didn't learn a goddamn thing the rest of the week, but we had one hell of a party.